All right, hello and welcome to this episode. First and foremost, I just want to wish everyone a happy new year. Welcome to 2021. And on this episode, I really want to talk about, how we can make this new year, right, your year for change. Right. So no matter when you're watching or listening to this, right, this is really about like what's going to create the turning point for people, right? What's going to create the turning point for you on your journey to recovery? And, the number one message that I want to send is you have to stop trying harder. You have to try different, right? For many of us, one of the reasons that we struggle with OCD, anxiety, psychological stress, for as long as we struggle with it, it has nothing to do with effort. And I think that's the hardest thing for people to realize is that, we for so long we've lived life in this idea of like, well, if I just work harder, if I just put more effort and more time in, that's going to get me the result, right? We equate effort with result. And when it comes to, recovery from OCD, anxiety, and any kind of stress-related disorder, it's usually backwards, right? The more effort we put into trying to get better, oftentimes it works in a reverse effect. It often makes things worse. Now, why is that? Well, because if we're working to try to get rid of anxiety, right, we're treating anxiety as the problem, and we're treating the thoughts in our head, right, the intrusive thoughts, right, as the problem that we're working to get rid of. We are, in fact, reinforcing that they are a problem, right? And what happens is a paradoxical effect of the more and more we try to get rid of them, the more and more we experience them. Because, again, we need to understand that the experience of anxiety within your body, right? The experience of stress even is not the problem, right? Like that's not the thing we're aiming to get rid of. And the harder we try to get rid of it, the more we're going to experience it, right? Because what we're going to do is we're going to suppress it. We're going to push it down. And it's like holding a beach ball underwater, right? I equate it all the time. It's like the only place it has to go is up, right? The problem that we have is not the thoughts that we're experiencing, not the feelings that we're experiencing. It's the behaviors we're doing that end up reinforcing, right? It's the behaviors we do that we try to get rid of the thoughts and feelings that then reinforce the whole loop, right? And this works for anything. For OCD, obviously, the compulsions, right, are what we look for. But the reality is these behaviors exist with any kind of psychological stress. So panic, right? People with panic attacks will often avoid things that might give them panic attacks. That is a behavior, right? With social anxiety, same thing, avoiding social situations. With phobias, avoidance, right? Avoidance is one of those big compulsions and behaviors that people do. They don't even realize they're doing. Not to mention all the stuff we do in our head, like ruminating, analyzing, worrying, right? All that stuff up there is all those behaviors are things that are keeping you stuck in that loop. And so when it comes to making real change in your life, right, and especially with this new year, like what a better time to start, right? Because if you've been at this for any length of time, right, looking for a solution, looking for help, right, looking for, to really take back control of your life, well, there is no better time than right now, like today. It cannot be a thing that you put off to tomorrow, because there's an endless amount of tomorrows. Well, not endless, but you know what I mean? We always have tomorrow, right, that we can put off to until we don't, right? And you have to get honest with yourself and say, hey, look, like what is this doing to my life? How is this impacting the quality of life? Am I living the kind of life that I really want to live? Or is it being restricted by fear and anxiety and stress? And if it is, well, then I have to take responsibility to say, hey, I need to break myself out of this. I need to take back control. And, with that said, right, it's like instead of working harder to do that, though, you have to try a different approach. Right? We have to focus on behavior change. And I know, there's so much that goes in depth, and obviously in the taking back control, program with Restored Minds, that we go in depth into that, right? Like, how do you actually stop those, like, how do you actually do the correct behaviors in your head, right? I mean, like, there's, obviously there's a lot of in depth, but the main message that I want to send in this episode is that it's not about trying harder. It's about taking a completely different approach. Right. I mean, there's a whole, like if we think about it like this, right, with the Chinese finger trap, for those of you that have never played with a Chinese finger trap, I mean, essentially it's this little bamboo cylinder, and if you put your fingers in it, right, the harder you try to pull your fingers out of it, what happens is the tighter and tighter the trap gets, and you ultimately become stuck, right? And the paradox to the trap is you have to do the opposite of what you think you would do, and that is actually what allows you to break free. So what you do is you push your fingers inward, deeper into the trap, and that opens up the cylinder, which allows you to get one finger out and the other finger out. And that's the trap of OCD and anxiety, almost summarized, right? I mean, or like, I don't know what the word would be, but like, put into a physical item, right? It's like everything we do that we're trying to help ourselves is actually making us more and more stuck, right? And once we we take the paradoxical approach, right, and we start learning the strategies that are actually going to help us not engage in those behaviors, right, especially the mental behaviors, because those are the ones that really keep people stuck. That is the ticket to trying different, to going a completely different approach, right, than what you've been taught. And the crummy thing is, right, is that for many of us, we go to therapists, right, we go to doctors, and they actually reinforce the idea that we're supposed to try to get rid of anxiety, right, which is, I can't tell you, I mean, I went on my own journey, right, to like 5 or 6 different therapists, right? And all of them are teaching me the same thing, like relaxation techniques, progressive muscle relaxation, breathing, right? Calm the anxiety down, right? Get rid of the anxiety. And then if you go the pharmaceutical route, I mean, like anti-anxiety meds, yeah, they work great temporarily. But then what happens is you build tolerance to them. And the whole idea is to get rid of anxiety. And that can't be our approach, because it's a broken model. It keeps us stuck. And trying a completely different approach is actually what enables us to really break free and take back control of our life. Now, I'm not against medication, and again, it's one of those things that there's many aspects to this, right? So I don't want to come off as like, oh, never do this or never do this, right? I mean, yes, everyone has their own customized approach to this, but we have to think long-term solutions instead of short-term comfort. That is what it means to try different, right? Instead of trying harder. If you're doing something and you haven't been seeing results, it's like you have to take a different approach at some point, right? Because it's just not working. And so this year, as we kick off this new year, the thing that I just want to say is that, if you're struggling with this, like I've been there, right? And now that I get the opportunity and the amazing opportunity at that to work with people and, through my programs, through, groups and individual as well. The one thing that's universal in the people that get better is we go a different approach than what we've been doing, right? And when you do that, that's what really enables you to take back control. So if you've been struggling for any length of time, the one thing that I would really say, especially starting this new year, is to stop doing the same things you've been doing, right? Is to really go and take a different approach. And over at Restored Minds, we teach you how to do that. And we really believe in what we do. And so we have some resources, down in the notes if you're interested. For those of you that are interested in pursuing, further, education and resources with us. We have, free downloads as well as free masterclass. We also have our trainings and our groups and every kind of level of support that you can imagine. So, and again, if you found this episode helpful, we always would appreciate if you'd subscribe and like and share, because, we really want to get this message out to people. right? And if this is something that you're wrestling with, we really want you to get better, right? Because you can get better. And I think that's the main thing to remember, is just that it's not about the effort you're putting in. It's just that you've probably been going just the wrong approach. And once we change our approach and we try something different, and we do things that are completely against what we would think to do, that's when we start to see the results that we've wanted. So thank you so much for hanging out today with us, or with me, I'm sorry. And, I look forward to seeing you guys next week. Happy New Year, and I wish you guys an awesome 2021. Take care.
Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. If you found it helpful, chances are someone else will too, and we'd really appreciate your support by liking and subscribing, and also sharing this video on your social platforms. Also, if you're looking for additional help, we have some resources right down in the links below to help you on your journey. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I hope to see you soon.